It actually only requires a few small tweaks. On your landing page, putting things a little differently. In your code base, changing a few lines of code, which changes the entire flow. The first few interactions with your product are crucial. Some of these changes might seem deceptively simple and insignificant, but I'm not kidding here. I've seen founders use them to trigger an avalanche of growth, 10xing their revenue in record time. Let me give you 5 pricing psychology hacks that you can implement today and potentially unlock completely new levels for your business. Let's get started. Welcome to my channel. I'm Simon Horberg. I'm a startup CEO and founder of multiple SaaS products, and on this channel, I share everything I learned about doing business online. Now, a quick disclaimer. What I'm about to show you might unlock a world of new opportunities, and it might be tempting to get carried away. Some of these psychological hacks can definitely be misused to the point where you're downright manipulating and misleading your users. Please don't. And no, this is not one of those with great power comes great responsibility kind of things. It's much more of a your users will see through it and it'll fuck you over kind of thing. I'll show you some bad examples of these you should definitely stay away from. That said, let's start with something I bet you've seen before. But we need to go quick because the time is just about to run out. In fact, I'm not sure Oh, it just started all over. I'm willing to bet that you've seen this recently. You went to a website, you saw a banner ad that said limited time offer or only a few left in stock. Maybe you tried refreshing the page and you noticed that the timer just reset. This is what's known as the Scarcity Effect. Back in 1975, a group of researchers carried out a social experiment. Basically, 2 jars of identical cookies were put next to each other, but one jar had only a few cookies left while the other jar was half full. Even though the cookies were identical, the participant consistently preferred cookies from the almost empty jar. Because these cookies seemed scarce, it affected their perception of value. It's as if scarcity signals something. Since other people have been picking these cookies more often, they probably know something you don't. That, for some reason, this choice is the better one. And here's the interesting part. In this experiment, they also had a version with only one almost empty jar, and halfway through, they refilled it. This resulted in the participants not only valuing the cookies lower as soon as they didn't appear scarce anymore, but going from scarce to abundant actually made them value the cookies even lower than a control group that had a full jar of cookies there the whole time. This experiment has been repeated a number of times since then, and we know now that our brains are wired to value things more when they're scarce. And typically, we're willing to pay more for them. And of course, companies use this psychological hack in a way that's designed to make you buy more or pay a higher price. In fact, it's so overused now that most people on the internet see right through it. I would not recommend putting a timer on an offer just to do it. It comes off scammy and typically has the opposite effect. When you refresh the page and the timer resets, that's basically the equivalent of refilling the jar of cookies right in front of your visitor. If anything, it'll make them think less of your product and less of you for trying to manipulate them. On the other hand, you can benefit from scarcity if you are truly running a time-limited offer or an offer with limited supply. For instance, if you're selling info products, you can run a discounted offer for a period of time, as long as you don't prolong it or reset the offer or immediately run a new similar offer. And the same goes for limited supply. We recently launched a new SaaS product, LinkDrip, and as a part of our market validation, we wanted to pre-sell a limited number of lifetime deals to see if the interest was there. And most people know that you can't run a SaaS sustainably only on lifetime deals, so when we said that there's going to be a limited supply only, it was very genuine, and people knew that. On top of that, we actually sold these for an extra discounted price in the first week, only available for users who were already subscribing to our other SaaS. It appeared super scarce, which drove a massive amount of sales in the first week. And the scarcity was for a perfectly good reason. We didn't have to rig it deliberately to drive more sales. It was simply a natural part of us validating this product. If you visit a SaaS website, you're typically presented with this. Different subscription plans you can choose between. And it's not uncommon to see one of these being significantly more expensive than the rest. This plan serves as an anchor. The anchoring effect is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when people rely too heavily on the first piece of information they receive when making a decision. This effect is used by marketers pretty much everywhere, both in the digital and the physical world. Have you ever gone to a store and seen an item with a large regular price marked on it, but then you see that it's on sale? You might think that the sale price is a great deal because it's so much lower than the regular price. But the question is the regular price actually fair? This is the anchoring effect at work. Our brains are wired to pay more attention to the first piece of information we receive. And the first piece of information can influence our decisions and perception of the value. In this case, the regular price is the anchor, and it influences our perception of the sale price. Another example of anchoring is putting multiple items next to each other. For instance, you might go to a store to pick up a bottle of wine. You see two bottles next to each other. One is cheaper than the other. Sure, you enjoy a good bottle of wine, but you're not really a wine enthusiast, so why not save a few dollars and just go for the cheaper one? They probably taste roughly the same, right? Probably. But this is where the smart marketer comes in and places a much more expensive bottle of wine next to both of them. Next time you pick up a bottle of wine, your reasoning might change a little. For sure, you're not gonna pay for the expensive bottle. You're still not that enthusiastic about it. Yet, the cheapest one? It's probably too poor tasting. And the one in the middle only cost a bit more than the cheapest one, so let's go with that one. This is a perfect example of the anchoring effect tricking you into spending more money than you otherwise would have. If you're selling a SaaS, make sure to include a very highly priced tier as an anchor. If you're selling an ebook or course, try to include multiple tiers with at least one expensive tier that includes something extra. It could be an hour of one-to-one consulting or access to extra resources. And once again, be reasonable about it when you add an anchor. Don't put something completely out of proportions just to have an anchor, and of course, be prepared that someone might actually still go for the most expensive option. Every once in a while, a true wine enthusiast will drop by your store and will want that expensive luxury bottle. In fact, if you try adding an anchor to your product today, you'll probably be surprised that it actually sells more often than you think. Though, when you start implementing some of these techniques, it can be really difficult to decide which type of anchor you should use, how you can create just the right level of scarcity, when is something too much and when is it effective. And there's only one way to really find out. You need to do A/B testing. This means that you're going to present two different versions of your landing page and of your emails, your newsletter, and so on to two different groups of users and then measure which one has the biggest impact. A/B testing is essential for a startup, and quite frankly, it's an art to do this right. But let me show you something extremely cool. I've partnered with HubSpot on delivering this video, and we want to give you the complete A/B testing kit. You will get 10 guidelines for effective A/B testing, how to run and evaluate your tests, a significance calculator to track your results, templates to help you organize and improve your tests, and much more. And we give you all of this for free. All you have to do is find the link in the description and download it right away. Don't miss out on this one. It's packed with value. Thank you, HubSpot, for sponsoring this video and for supporting this YouTube channel. These taste like shit. Now that we're on the topic of paid plans, I'm sure you've noticed something like this when you visit SaaS pricing pages. How about this? Or these? Of course, this is social proof. It's definitely helpful when trying to make a sale, but there's something more to it. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like everyone else was doing something, so you decided to do it too? That's called the bandwagon effect. It's a psychological phenomenon where people do or believe something because they think other people are doing it or believe in it. It's like when you're at a sports game and everyone else is cheering and jumping up and down, so you start cheering and jumping up and down too, even if you don't really care about the game. Or when you see a product on social media that everyone is talking about, so you decide to buy it too, even if you don't really need it. We humans are social animals. We tend to look to others for guidance on how to behave in a given situation. And smart marketers know this. Convincing people that your product is popular and widely used is a very effective marketing technique. It heavily influences people's buying decisions. A great example of this is adding a popular tag on the paid plan you want most users to pick. Combining this with the anchoring effect can have an enormous impact on your sales. That's why we see this combination so often on SaaS pricing pages. If you have an impressive number of users or downloads or usage of your product, do showcase this on your landing page. The bandwagon effect also taps into our desire to be more like people we admire. So if you have influential people or high-profile companies using your product, you should definitely show this on your landing page too. It's also very impactful to incentivize your users to talk about your product on social media. It has an enormous effect on people if they see a timeline full of other people talking about how cool your product is. It makes them want to jump on the bandwagon. On the other hand, don't get carried away here. It's crazy that I have to even sit here and say this, but don't lie about your numbers. The other day I found this website. In the corner it had some pop-ups showing someone from Bucharest just upgraded to silver and someone from Amsterdam just upgraded to gold and so on. When I expected the DOM of the website, I found a small piece of JavaScript that clearly generated this data at random. It was just made up bullshit. And it's truly sad, because this was not an outstanding case. Fake urgency, fake timers, fake social proof. I see this all the time. Please don't be that business. If you have a large number of users, high-profile companies or influential people using your product, absolutely show this on your landing page. Definitely. But don't make it up. Even if you feel it's normal or everyone else is doing it, there's a very good chance that this might hit you hard in the future. Not to say that it might be considered deceptive advertising, which is basically illegal. Now, here's another common pattern you will see on most successful SaaS landing pages. An outcome, clearly stated. The features of your products are less important. You want to sell the outcome of using your product. But there's a catch. Even if the outcome of using your product is essentially the same, it might produce drastically different results depending on the context in which you present the outcome. This is known as the framing effect. In 2007, an experiment attempted to measure if price had an influence on the taste of wine. They had a bunch of people hooked up to an MRI scanner so they could measure the level of pleasure in their brain while asking them to taste different wines. They informed the people of the price of the wine before tasting, ranging from cheap $5 wine all the way up to $100 high-quality wine. And the results were very consistent. These participants expressed how they enjoyed the expensive wines more, and the brain scan backed it up. And of course, the wines were all the same. They were all drinking cheap $5 wine all the time, yet simply telling them that this wine was more expensive led them to enjoy the wine more. It literally shaped how their brains perceived pleasure. This is the framing effect in action, and it's the exact reason why you probably don't want to price your product super cheap in order to undercut the market. It's also the reason why you should know and understand the motivation, desires, and drivers of your target user. You might present your SaaS product as a cost-saving solution, highlighting how it can help businesses reduce their expenses by reducing the need for in-house IT staff or expensive hardware. This framing of the product as a cost-saving solution is likely to appeal to businesses that are looking to save money and might make them more likely to purchase the product. On the other hand, if your target user is coming from a result-oriented business looking to increase their output, presenting your SaaS as a cost-saving solution might not resonate very well. Instead, you should frame your SaaS product as a way to improve efficiency and productivity, with the focus being on how it can help businesses get more work done in less time. Presenting your product as a productivity-enhancing solution is way more likely to appeal to this kind of business. In reality, your SaaS might very well do both of these. They often do go hand in hand together. But the framing of the SaaS product has a significant influence on how potential customers perceive it and decide whether or not to make a purchase. Finally, let's talk about this. Cheap IKEA furniture. Do you like this chair? Well, probably to you it's just some chair, but psychology shows that if you actually assemble this chair on your own, you're more likely to value it higher. We know this as the effort justification effect. It's a psychological effect that happens when people invest time and effort into something. They're more likely to value it higher than they would have before putting in the effort. That's why a lot of people really enjoy the cheap IKEA furniture they had to assemble themselves. It's a part of why social media is so addictive. Because we put a lot of effort into following the right people, curating our timeline to be just right, and building our own personal brands. Leaving platforms like social media, even if we know it's not always good for us, is really hard when we've invested so much time and effort into it. Using this psychological effect in your SaaS product can have a huge impact on both conversions and retention. I can give you an example of one of the SaaS products I'm running, FeedHive. When you sign up for a FeedHive account, we have a multi-step onboarding flow you need to finish before getting access to the platform. This includes telling us a little about your user, where you've heard about FeedHive, and since it's a social media management tool, we're asking you to link your social accounts during this onboarding flow. We only ask you to add at least one, but most people are actually inclined to add 3-4 socials at this step. After that, we even ask you to pick a plan and put your credit card information in order to get started. Of course, we do this partially to gather useful information and to give a personalized first experience, but we're also deliberately doing this to create a sense of initial investment. Adding both your social accounts and credit card information, forcing you to consider which paid plan you're gonna need, all of this requires time and effort, and it's definitely an investment from the user. And guess what? We have a trial to conversion rate of more than 50%, hitting as high as 80% in some periods. It's a very high conversion rate compared to the industry average. We've A/B tested this flow a lot, and as soon as we remove this onboarding flow or just make it optional, the trial to conversion rate drops significantly. This is the effort justification effect at work here. Sure, we also do have a big drop-off of new users who leave when they can't get access to the platform immediately. But overall, filtering off these users who aren't willing to put in an initial investment does result in a higher monthly growth and revenue for us. So even if it seems counterintuitive, it's definitely worth it. On the other hand, this is also why it's painfully difficult to get some users to leave our competitors. Even if they acknowledge that our platform is better, easier to use, and will save them time in the long run. Getting them to abandon all the effort and investment they've done in setting themselves up on those other platforms is just difficult. But then again, this goes for us as well. It's definitely a good way to protect yourself against churn as well. I highly recommend you try implementing these psychology hacks into your sales funnel and in your product itself. But once again, I do want to make it clear that overdoing it will have the very opposite effect. There's a lot of discussion about the moral and ethical implications of these techniques. And it's interesting, though we all have different sets of moral values, and what feels right for me might not feel right for you. But trust me, even if you have no issues with the ethics at all, overdoing these will end up hitting you hard. And by the end of the day, nothing is more valuable than your reputation. So use these techniques with a bit of care. That said, when implemented strategically and in reasonable ways, they can result in a massive revenue boost for your business. So do try it out. I hope you got value from this video. If you did, you definitely want to take a look at this video up next. Also, remember to like and subscribe for more content. I will see you soon for another video.